We're still filming. Noped freaks, taking another ride on the 81 Honda NC50 Express, and away we go. I still have a few things to do on this, although they're not critical, except maybe it might be running a tad lean still. Even though I've got the needle jet on the ridges position, and the main jet is approximately an 80 main jet. I think the stock main jet is 75, but don't quote me on that. I ended up just drilling out the stock main jet, which some people have a problem with, but I'm tired of ordering jets. I've got, I don't know, more than a dozen jets here, probably a dozen, 18 or 20 of them. But I guess that comes with the territory. Well, actually, no, this is the main jet off the Honda Aero, so it is not drilled out. But I might have to enlarge it a tiny bit. I guess I'd have to enlarge it to an 85 because that's the next drill size I have. So maybe it's running a little lean, maybe not. I'll look into it more later. Still have to true the wheels on this thing, tighten the spokes on the front wheel. I need a truing stand for that, or I could try to eyeball it, but I think since I have so many of these things, I might just get a truing stand. I got my, I think it'll work, it's actually off a QT50, a fork dust cover grommet. This one was missing it. I think the one from the QT50 will fit it. I got a good deal on it on eBay for $6. The fuel tank, oil tank. This thing has like 2 tanks inside the one main tank. An oil tank and a fuel tank, and I think they're separated by some sort of metal wall or lining. I guess I've never taken a fuel tank apart, but I'm just kind of imagining what's there. But anyways, the gas leaks into the oil tank, so I'm basically running it on premix now. But if I ever decide to turn around and sell this, I probably want to get a fuel tank that works right, and so people can just put oil in and premix it. Now this thing doesn't have a low oil light, I don't think. It just got the high beam indicator and the turn signal light. I don't think there's a low oil light, so you just got to keep an eye on it. Luckily, the oil line is transparent, so you can kind of see, just look, and you can tell if it's got oil, not necessarily how much though. My mirror is cracked. You may not be able to tell that in the video. I've got the mirror from a QT50 will actually work on the left side, but not the right, because the right side is reverse threaded on a Yamaha, but not, I don't think it's reverse threaded on this Honda. But I did find a pair of mirrors that'll work for about 19 bucks on eBay, which I might, then again, I might not get. I thought it would be cool to get a basket, a front basket, although if you want the original basket that came with this, you can expect to pay about 100 bucks for a used one. I did find, if you go to eBay and you search for like Honda C70 basket, you can find those for about 37 bucks shipped, and I could just strap it on there. You know, any basket should work. It's just a matter of mounting it. So those are the things I have left to do, or I could do none of them and just ride it around as is. Oh, well, yeah, something's up with the speedometer. I replaced the speedometer cable with the new old stock one. And the speedometer's fine to about 26 miles an hour, and then it kind of goes berserk. It'll shoot up to 35, and that's not the actual speed of the bike. See, it just doesn't sound like it's getting enough gas right there. But anyways, I'll fiddle with that. I talked about how some carburetor parts from the Honda Aero 50 are interchangeable with this. There are some parts with the Yamaha QT50 that are interchangeable. The left mirror is interchangeable. The fork dust cover grommet might be. The needle bearings are interchangeable. They're the same diameter needle bearings, same size needle bearings. And the wrist pin, of course, is also interchangeable if the needle bearings are. And then one other thing I was going to look into was a cylinder off of a Honda Urban Express and see if those are different than the stock cylinder on this. And if so, if there's a difference in terms of performance, you can get a Urban Express cylinder pretty cheap on eBay, and I might swap it out just to see what happens. Here I'm actually just low on gas, so I switch over to reserve. I heard it start to bog, and thought, nah, this thing must be low on gas. These are the kind of things you figure out after you've ridden enough or messed around with enough of these things. You can learn a lot by ear. I still got a lot to learn by just listening to the engine and stuff like that, but if you listen, you pick up stuff, and you can apply it from one of these bikes to another. This thing is just a joy to ride. I like it in the stock configuration. I kind of associate speed with safety, you know, as far as speed in terms of keeping up with traffic. You know, riding it around the neighborhood here, it's adequate for that. But if I were to get on more trafficked roads, which I do on parts of this, or just a little bit, I really feel like you need to go at least 35. And if I could get it to 35 in stock configuration, that would be awesome. So I'll keep working on it. The manual calls for a 10W40 oil in the transmission. Now don't confuse with that with what you got to mix with the gas. If your oil injection system is still working, you want to get 2-stroke injector oil for that. Or if you're pre-mixing, you want to get 2-stroke oil that you pre-mix. There's a difference between injector oil and stuff that's meant to be pre-mixed. One works better through the oil injector, and one works better by mixing it straight with the gas. But the transmission oil is 10W40 oil in the summer, and then it calls for 5W30 in the winter, and I've still got 10W40 in this stuff. Of course, another mistake that people often make is they put too much oil in them, even though Honda has actually tried to idiot-proof it by, if you put too much oil in it, it just spills back out the fill hole. So it'd be kind of hard to mess that up. But since I'm riding it around, it's about 30 degrees out here. When I first take it out of the shed, after it's been sitting for days or whenever the last time I rode it, that 10W40 oil kind of appears more like honey. It's gotten really thick because of the cold. And when I first roll this out to the driveway, I get a bit of resistance on the rear tire. And I think it's because of that. So I'm tempted to swap out the transmission oil, which is different than the 2-stroke oil, from 10W40 to 5W30 or less, and see if I get a mile or two an hour more as a result. And I'll try to richen up the fuel air mixture And I can also play with, I think right now it's running 40 to 1, gas to two-stroke oil. I might try a little higher ratio. You don't want to get too crazy with this. Maybe 50 to 1, and just see if it makes a difference in how it runs. Sometimes you can experiment with the gas-oil ratio and determine, you know, what runs the best. And believe it or not, you know, the tendency is to always go, you know, try to make the fuel richer, fuel-air mixture richer, thinking you'll get more power out of that. But a lot of times if you lean it out a bit, as long as it's not running too hot, you'll actually get some performance gains from leaning out the fuel-to-air mixture. So that would be like a smaller main jet, or maybe adjusting the needle jet some, because sometimes they can run too rich. But normally you'd hear that. You'd hear it four-stroking, which it isn't, or just bogging down a rich bog as opposed to a lean bog. If you watch some of my other videos, especially with that QT50 I was breaking in, the first one, you get some lean bogs. And occasionally in this one, from a start, I'll get a little bit of a lean bog. I pointed one out earlier. We'll listen to it here and see if we get a bit of a lean bog at startup, because I don't think it gets enough gas at the, see how it gets lower like that? That's kind of a lean bog. You know, normally they're a little more pronounced than that. Part of it might just be the video, the sound quality of the video, but a little bit of a lean bog is here, right there, yep. Right at the beginning, it evens out as you get accelerating, but right at the beginning you get a lean bog there. So it's a little lean still, I think. I could look into it and find out that I'm totally wrong. That happens to me from time to time. I think it's one thing, and it turns out I was completely wrong. But I'd put money that it's still running a little lean. And another thing you do is you can put a temperature gauge on the spark plug and get the cylinder head temperature and kind of keep an eye on that. And if it's running too hot, it's usually not getting enough fuel. So you need to bump up the main jet or the needle jet, bigger size main jet or needle jet in a richer position. Which makes me wonder, the needle actually has 5 slots on it where you can move this clip to determine how rich it'll run. I'm wondering if you couldn't add a couple slots above and below the ones that are already there, and so you have, instead of 5 positions, you have maybe 7 to try from. But, you know, that could just be a waste of time. I don't know. Could you be running way too rich or way too lean at those extreme positions that you add? These bikes are just awesome. They're just a ton of fun. They weigh practically nothing. You're buzzing around about 30 miles an hour, maybe faster with some modifications. And it's great for just tooling around the neighborhood, running errands. And it's awesome that all the lights work on this damn thing. I had to, there's the lean bog again. Of course, I had to replace the headlight and do some wiring work, and they had the rear turn signals mixed up, and then I had to put in the high beam indicator. Actually, I took a bulb and wires from a QT50 and just wired it in instead of trying to get the special bulb for the high beam indicator that this thing calls for, because the QT50 bulb was a little different, but it's 6 volt and it fit right in. And this actually has a 12 volt headlight in it with a replaceable bulb. It may not make any difference, but you know, maybe it won't blow as easily if there's a problem. There's the lean bog again. You can hear it over my ramblings. So yeah, just an update on the Honda NC50. Pulling it in. It's just a pleasure to ride. Reliable. Brought back from the ashes, neglect and abuse of the former owner. And now it's running like a top. Until next time. Ride.